our Most High. We thank our friends that we're able to still get together today, and all our partners that still took the chance to join us, that still participated with us, even though it's virtual, because our attendees are looking forward to interacting with you and spending some time to get to know you. So this is our 11th annual Secure Delaware workshop, and we call it a Cybersecurity Summit. We call it our Delaware Cybersecurity Conference. I remember just last year we had close to 500 people with us at the Chase Center, and it was wonderful to meet everybody. Wonderful to talk about different concepts from identity to cyber threats to phishing to just fraud, right? That is the extent of our conversation that we will have today. So I'm excited about this platform. I'm excited about the chance to spend time with you today. And I get to introduce some amazing people today, even those that I will directly be introducing. In my mind, I am introducing them, and I have that honor of doing that. Thank you. We have close to 195 people on connected. We have more joining now, and we'll get this thing going. One other thing to note is October is Cybersecurity Month. Usually we have events across the whole month with our members of our Information Security Office and members of our community. But with the state of affairs, we went virtual with that too. And we got great success. We had some topics that our users and our participants found to be extremely educational, and they absolutely loved it. I would like to encourage you to check out Ron Plesko's presentation on cyber fraud that is coming up in November 5th. That is also extending our cybersecurity month with a little bit more content that just helps you, whether you're a small business or whether you are just a constituent at home, to know how to interact with a lot of the cyber information. Beyond just the panelists, we'll have the breakout sessions where you get to choose a topic and spend time with some of the great participants that we have. So thank you again for joining us today. We'll go ahead and we'll get it kicked off. So many of you remember last year our very energetic and charismatic leader, James Collins. With a lot of the changes going on, James has made the decision to pursue other opportunities, and it was definitely a tough time for us. But we were so excited for him, and we wished him so well. We haven't seen a bow tie since he left, so we just gonna have to just put some around the building just so we can remember the energy he brought to us. But in his seat, Mr. Jason Clark has stepped up and provided excellent leadership for our organization. Jason has been with the state for many years, and for the last 3 years, he was the chief operating officer. So if you ride on our internet, or if you see a traffic light, if you go to our site and get health care benefits, that infrastructure you were running on was led by Jason and his team, and they've been doing such a wonderful job to keep the state going. So we're very excited about our governor's office making that brave decision to select one of our own to assume this role and lead it until after the elections and when they go through a whole confirmation thing. So it is my honor, and I consider him a friend. We're actually twins from different parents. Nobody knows that. Born the same day, so we always get together. We have a good time. So please, without further ado, allow me to introduce you to Jason Clark.
Well, good morning, everyone. And thank you very much, Solomon, for that introduction. And thank you all for joining us. James, as Solomon mentioned, has left, and I'm currently acting as the state CIO. He left a huge footprint on our organization and definitely within the cybersecurity landscape as a whole. His support in this space will remember for years to come, as Solomon said, and we wish him definitely nothing but the best and continued success in his new adventure. They say hindsight's 2020. I'm not sure how many of us want to look back on this year, but for all the challenges that IT has really shined in all of the challenges that we've endured in 2020. There's no doubt we faced some major challenges with provisioning thousands of employees for telework, configuring and rolling out laptops, setting up soft phone implementations, and let's not forget the incredible work that our service desk team has been doing in supporting those employees who are working from home for the very first time. We've done all of this while continuing to pursue our centralization efforts and keeping all of our services and all of our other services available and online and available for everyone to use. But like all of you, we are adapting, and our efforts to deliver IT are gaining newfound respect within the businesses we support. Now more than ever, our customers are more dependent on IT, the services, and the ability to shift whole services quickly as we respond to the new normal that has been presented to us in this pandemic. Here at DTI, we continue to broaden our single sign-on solution, id.delaware.gov. We continue to pursue cloud-first solutions, and for the foreseeable future, supporting broadband initiatives to increase internet access across our state and ensure that our students can be educated from home and participate. We couldn't do all this without many thanks to Governor Carney, our federal and state delegations, and really all of our partners for the ongoing support of these efforts. Solomon mentioned the vendors joining us today, the vendors that have supported us during this time. Really can't thank you enough. But many of you know all of this adapting comes with risks. Cybersecurity is one of the greatest threats in the modern age. We're reminded every day that bad actors are working to find vulnerabilities and exploit our systems. This election season is casting a light on that, which all of you know occurs daily. We had an interview just the other day about the activation, and I'll say that we're fortunate again this year to be partnering with the 166th Cyber Operations Squadron of the Delaware Air National Guard, along with members of the Delaware Army Guard. Together with the Department of Elections, we're working hard to safeguard the democratic process. And we've gotten a few phone calls about activating the Guard and what does this mean? And we have to remind them each and every day, whether there's an election in play or not, we face these threats and we have to react and we have to be prepared. So it kind of brings me back to the reason we're all here today. This is a conference about working together to protect our systems, our businesses, and our communities. I do have the honor today of introducing to you our first keynote speaker, Mr. Daniel Eliot, who fittingly will be speaking on managing cyber risks during times of crisis. I'm fortunate to know Daniel. He was extremely helpful in ensuring outreach to our small business community when we moved House Bill 180 on breach notification forward several years ago. We appreciated his efforts then, and we really appreciate his willingness to come back and join us today. For those of you who do not know him, please let me read a few lines from his bio. With a passion for helping people, Daniel Eliot is Director of Education and Strategic Initiatives at the National Cybersecurity Alliance. In his role, he's responsible for NCSA's educational portfolio and helms one of NCA's most successful initiatives, CyberSecure My Business, which is a national program designated to help organizations of all sizes learn to be safer and more secure online. Mr. Eliot assembles the federal government, state and local governments, academia, private sector, all in an effort to discuss cutting-edge issues and to create and implement high-quality, large-scale education awareness efforts. Daniel's a certified SANS security awareness professional. He's an accomplished speaker, a champion when it comes to cybersecurity, and he regularly speaks at events across the country, collaborating with regional and national cybersecurity initiatives. He's not only a champion of helping people stay safe online, but he's also a champion of homeless animals and regularly fosters them for the SPCA. He's originally from Southern Indiana, but he has made the East his home, and we're quite happy with that. So as I said, he's been a longstanding partner of DTI, and we're glad he's here and able to join us again today. Please join me in welcoming Daniel Eliot.
Thank you so much. In honor of the day, I have my Dover Downs pencil, so I'm mentally at the conference. But no, it's wonderful being part of this. And let me share my screen here so you can, hopefully you're able to see what I'm seeing now. It is an honor being part of this conference. I always thought I would be on the main stage talking to the Secure Delaware Conference. And though I am not on the stage physically, it's a pleasure being here virtually with all of you. I love the First States and getting to collaborate in any way I can with all of you. So, and I also, before I get into my remarks, I want to thank all of the people who put this event on. I know how hard it is to assemble these types of events, whether virtual or in person. So thank you to all of the planners and organizers for pulling this together for a great day of learning. So let's dig right in. So as Jason said, I'm going to be talking about managing cyber risks during times of crisis. And I'm going to organize my talk into a few different modules. I'm going to first provide an overview of the National Cybersecurity Alliance and of Cybersecurity Awareness Month. Then I'm going to break down some of the tactics and themes that cyber criminals are using to take advantage of businesses and consumers during times of crisis. And I'll give some very specific examples of those attacks. Then I'm going to provide you with some ways that you can reduce your vulnerabilities. And I'm going to break that up into two different sections, for consumers and then for businesses. And then I'll wrap up with some Q&A and some resources that you can take advantage of. So who is the National Cybersecurity Alliance, or what are we? You know, we're a national nonprofit focused on cybersecurity education and awareness. And we do that through deploying large-scale campaigns. So some of you may have heard of the Stop, Think, Connect campaign that we created with the White House a few years ago, or a few administrations ago at this point. We also coordinate Data Privacy Day, which is recognized every January 28th. And one of the largest campaigns that we lead is Cybersecurity Awareness Month. And we are in October. Happy Cybersecurity Awareness Month, everyone. It's almost over. Oh my gosh. So Cybersecurity Awareness Month, recognized every October, is a collaborative effort between the government and industry, both private sector and nonprofit, to raise awareness about the importance of cybersecurity and to make sure that all Americans have the resources they need to be safer and more secure online. And so the National Cybersecurity Alliance, we co-lead the annual monthly recognition with the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. I know it's a mouthful. We can just call them CISA from here on out. And the overarching theme for October, this year in particular, is do your part, be cyber smart. And that theme is really designed to empower individuals and organizations to own their role in protecting their part of cyberspace. Because if everyone owns their role, right, this isn't just the job of the IT department or IT vendor, it's everyone's job to secure our personal security and our enterprise's security. And if we all own our role, that our interconnected, always connected world will be safer and more resilient for everyone. And so there are ways that you can still get involved, even though we're almost done with October. It's free to take part in Cybersecurity Awareness Month. We encourage you to become a champion. When you sign up to become a champion, you receive a toolkit that you can use to design your own awareness initiatives, share with your friends, family, customers. I know Delaware Department of Technology and Information is a champion, and so thank you for becoming part of that. Many state universities, or many state governments, universities, businesses have signed on to become champions, to become cybersecurity evangelists, I like to call them, to spread the good word about cybersecurity and help people understand that they can take steps to improve their security. But it takes this amplification effort, such as becoming a champion, to impress upon individuals that they can take steps to improve their security. So now that my commercial is over for the National Cybersecurity Alliance and Cybersecurity Awareness Month, let's dig into this topic here. So again, managing cyber risks during times of crisis. Now, individuals and organizations face all sorts of risks and threats, right? It's part of life. Whether it's competition or natural disasters or cyber threats, or, the city of Philadelphia decided to close the street in front of my house this week to tear it apart. And so if I were a business, that would be a resiliency-based effort. I would have to figure out a way to continue serving my customers with the street destroyed in front of my building. So we're always facing some sort of threat and risk. What's critical is how we as individuals and businesses prepare for and respond to those moments of uncertainty. That's what's important. How you prepare for and respond to those moments of uncertainty really mean the difference between you staying in business or going out of business, or means the difference between you being financially viable for your family or not, right? So it's really important how you prepare for and respond to this uncertainty. Now, 2020, I think this graphic right here is 2020 in a nutshell. The topic sums up this topic quite well. 2020 has been generous in showcasing the types of or the spectrum of threats that can face not only businesses, but the world's community or citizens as a whole. We see fires ravaging California and Colorado. NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, was predicting 7 to 11 hurricanes, with 3 to 5 of them predicted to be very serious. We've seen social unrest across the globe, but particularly here at home. And this is manifested in both peaceful and violent protest, but both of them had had an impact on general constituents and our business communities. And of course, we've had the pandemic that we've had to confront, not only changing the way we do business, but the way we live our lives. And, those are just a few examples of some of the threats that have appeared in 2020. And the year ain't over, folks. We have plenty more time. There are these killer hornets that are apparently popping up. So there's plenty more time for bad things to happen. And so we want to be thinking about, how are cyber criminals taking advantage of all these threats? And that's where I want to lead, because among all of the threats that I just outlined to you, there's one persistent threat that threads itself throughout all of them, and that is the threat of cyber. Because cyber criminals, they prey upon fear, they prey upon confusion, they prey upon generosity, and they prey upon curiosity. Their goal is to exploit not only technological vulnerabilities, but vulnerabilities in human behavior and human emotion to get what they want. And much of that exploitation happens through what is called social engineering. Now, criminals are going to manipulate the human element of security through social engineering to get you to disclose sensitive information. They love for you to disclose confidential information such as your credentials. They want to encourage recipients of emails and text message to click on links or to download malicious files. They want you to click on links to infected websites. And they want you to give them physical access to facilities, right? And they do all of this through social engineering by crafting convincing emails, crafting convincing stories, to get you to take an action. They want to influence you through manipulating your human emotion. These are not technological attacks. These are psychological attacks that use technology as a delivery mechanism. And so we have to stop thinking that cyber crimes are only technological attacks, right? They're using human emotion to get us to elicit certain behaviors. So how are they doing that? So one of the biggest ways that they're trying to manipulate us is through phishing, or these malicious emails and text messages that they're sending. So KnowBe4, one of NCSA's one of NCSA's board member companies found that in their Q1 phishing report, they found that phishing emails related to COVID-19 were up 600% in Q1 of 2020, up 600%. Now, CrowdStrike, in one of their studies, found that there were more intrusion attempts in the first half of 2020 than in all of 2019. So why this increase in the first half of 2020? Well, crisis, right? People were desperately seeking information. That's why we saw a lot of email attacks that were themed using the Centers for Disease Control. They were themed from the National Institutes of Health. They were themed from your local health department. And they were getting individuals to click on links because individuals were desperately seeking out how to access personal protective equipment. They were trying to find out how to reduce their chances of becoming infected, right? They were trying to figure out how to protect their families and their incomes. They were trying to access the various funding mechanisms to support businesses and individuals from the federal government and state governments. So, of course, criminals are going to take advantage of all of this curiosity of trying to access more information. And of course, there was this mass transition to telework, which caused a tremendous amount of confusion. Again, criminals are going to take advantage of this confusion. And greater than 90% of cyber incidents begin with an email. Cyber criminals know it's an effective tool, so they don't change their tactics so much as they just change their themes with their email attacks. They adapt to the changing times. They read the news. And so here's an example of, and I'm going to provide a few examples of how they are specifically targeting individuals and businesses. So here's an example that Cofense Phishing Labs found. This email is preying, look at the subject line. This email is preying upon human emotion, trying to elicit a response to get an individual to click. Who would not click on that email, right? Staff member confirmed COVID-19 positive. So once you open the email, of course, they're going to say one of our team members have been infected by the coronavirus. View the secure document to get more details and also guidelines on how to keep safe, preying upon our curiosity. Regards, management. I love that conclusion. Regards, management. One, I mean, yes, there are some red flags in this email. Some of the grammatical errors. Maybe your management wouldn't sign an email as regards management. You would look at the reply to email address. Maybe that isn't a legitimate reply to email address for your organization or trusted partner. And of course, they're wanting you to click on this malicious file to download onto your computer. So we saw a ton of emails that are, again, themed with COVID-19. There were some emails that were even too low for criminals that were saying, that were preying upon people's fear of maybe being furloughed or laid off. And the emails were saying from criminals, click on this file because employees are being laid off. So learn to see if you're on this list. So that's just dirty. But criminals are going to use any way possible to elicit emotion, to get people to click on links and download files. And so I'll talk about some ways that we can stop and think before we click later on, but I want to go through a few examples, again, of how cyber criminals are taking advantage of various crises to theme some of their messaging. So among the more persistent social engineering schemes has been deployed by malicious actors through some of the financial programs offered by the U.S. federal government. So you saw a lot of emails going out to individuals and businesses with the U.S. Small Business Administration logo or some of our trusted banking partners' logos, encouraging people to click on a link or click on a button to download a specific file or to go to a specific file and submit your information in order to qualify for or to access your funds for the relief. And anytime there is a federal stimulus or relief package, criminals are always going to be taking advantage of that moment to steal that money from businesses or individuals who need it to survive. And so these are some examples that were captured that recently came through that are not legitimate emails from SBA and Bank of America. I mean, look at these, the link paths themselves. You can tell that that's not a legitimate email. And of course, in any instance, if you are curious about an email or you're suspicious of an email, definitely do not click. Call your trusted partners within those organizations to ask them and verify the legitimacy of those requests. And of course, always remember that you will never have to pay to get a loan or to get a stimulus package from the federal government. So here's another way criminals are taking advantage of crisis, and this is not through email. This is through phone calls. So an alert came out through FBI and CISA within the last few months, and they were saying that criminals are taking advantage of the mass transition to telework through this, they call it vishing, but it's a malicious phone call, right? We don't need a fancy name for it. It's just a malicious phone call. And what cyber criminals are doing is they're calling new employees who are teleworking. And how do they know they're new? Well, again, that's social engineering. They're going out to social media. They're seeing that an employee is new because what do we do on LinkedIn or on Facebook or every other social media account? We say, hey, I got a new job. This is my title. This is what I do. This is where I work. So what they're doing is they're capturing that information and they're calling the individuals, the new employees, saying, hey, I'm the IT support staff, and I'm going to help you set up your virtual private network. And so what does the employee do? They submit their credentials to the IT staff so that they can help them set up their set up their virtual private network. It's much easier for a criminal to convince an employee to hand over their credentials than it is to brute force their way in or to guess a password. But it was happening on such a scale that the FBI and CISA had to issue a warning to businesses in particular, letting them know about this scam. And so that businesses can issue guidance to their employees saying our IT support staff will never call you and ask you for your virtual private network credentials, or this is how to verify the legitimacy of our IT support staff. And this is a common, support scams are a very common old trick of criminals. But this is just a specific way that they're taking advantage of the current crisis to steal from businesses in particular. And this one in particular gives them access to your network. So this one is another way that criminals are taking advantage of crisis. And this one here isn't necessarily targeted at businesses, but targeted to those individuals who have lost jobs or who are seeking employment. Unemployment rose higher in 3 months of the COVID-19 pandemic and the beginning of it than in 2 years of the Great Recession. It grew from 6.2 million in February to 20.5 million in May of 2020. So to a cyber criminal, what that says is, oh, people are desperately seeking employment. They're sad, they're confused, they're scared. Perfect opportunity to fraud them. So mass unemployment combined with hiring freezes and the fact that the majority of people are spending all their time online these days created a perfect opportunity for cyber criminals to take advantage of these individuals. And FBI actually found reported victim losses from employment scams between January and May to exceed $25 million. That's a lot of money that individuals who needed that money to survive because they're unemployed lost to cyber criminals. $25 million. And so, again, it's that mental, that psychological attack. They're preying on that fear and uncertainty. And a lot of these come in the form, a lot of these attacks, these employment scams, come in the form of fake job postings on job boards, or they come in the form of a fake website, or they come through phishing emails targeting individuals with enticing offers. And a lot of times those offers, again, are pay to play. If you pay X amount of money, you'll get this job or get an interview. You should never have to pay to get a job. That's a good red flag that it is not legitimate and that it's actually a fraudulent posting. Here's another way they're taking advantage of the pandemic in particular. So we're shopping a lot more online, aren't we? I know we're all to blame. We're bored. We're looking around and we're saying, you know what? I need X, Y, Z. Or we just feel uncomfortable going into physical storefronts. And in some communities, we might not even be allowed to. And so what cyber criminals are doing is they're taking advantage of this opportunity by sending text messages in particular and emails that are impersonating FedEx and UPS. And they're saying, hey, you've missed a package, or you need to fill out this form to get information to get your package, or to reschedule a delivery. And so we're seeing a lot of this fraud, and actually so much of it that FedEx had to issue a warning about letting people know that they don't send unsolicited text messages or emails requesting money, packages, or personal information. And so just being aware that criminals are taking advantage of us being at home a lot more, shopping online a lot more. And so look at this link, that's not a legitimate link. Same with this Netflix text message that I received a few months ago. I don't even have a Netflix account, but they're banking on, they're sending out, mass emails and text messages with the assumption that people have Netflix accounts, right? And so they want you to click on that link, and they're preying upon your emotion, right? We encountered an error on your subscription. Oh my, I need to click on that and fix it. And so they're not only doing this with our streaming services and with our packages, but they're also doing it with many other things like our online gaming services, because they know people are spending their time playing games online more. And so again, it's criminals are watching the news, they're watching the environment, and they're trying to take advantage of every opportunity they can during this moment of uncertainty to defraud you. And I have just a few more examples of the methods that cyber criminals use, and then we'll get into what can you do now? What can you do about it? With charity fraud, with moments of crisis, criminals are going to take advantage of generosity in any way they can. And so every time there's a type of crisis, whether it's a hurricane, a flood, fires, the federal government and NCSA always have to issue warnings to those who want to donate their hard-earned money to help people in communities in need. Criminals are always going to take advantage of crisis to put up fake charity websites or to send fake charity emails to individuals asking them to donate. And so I have to say, if there's a moment that you feel, if you're in a position to donate and you feel inclined to donate to any charity, please go to the Better Business Bureau, which has their charity vetting process, or go out to Charity GuideStar, Charity Navigator, to evaluate the legitimacy of a charity before donating your hard-earned money, because cyber criminals are always going to put up convincing websites to try to steal that. Now, we also saw cyber criminals taking advantage of the social unrest that occurred. So it's not just the pandemic, it's not just fires that are occurring, it's also in these social movements that occur across the country, right, and across the globe. In both malicious tactics, right? So with this, they were taking advantage of the Black Lives Matter movement as a theme to trick people into downloading a malicious file. But it's also, using digital tactics to sow confusion. So Minneapolis was hit with a distributed denial of service attack during the George Floyd protests. Again, it's to sow confusion and fear in individuals and help disrupt services of federal and state governments. And so those are just a few very specific tactics that cyber criminals are using to theme their attacks with whatever crisis is going on. And no, we have not seen a zombie apocalypse in 2020 yet, but I'm not counting it out, and neither should you. But I'm sharing this example because it's a real website. It's a real campaign from the Centers for Disease Control. And, they launched this campaign in, I think, 2011, because shockingly enough, people were not paying attention to disaster preparedness. And they thought this would get people's attention, and it did. It got a lot of attention, and it was a highly effective campaign because their main message was that there are disaster preparedness steps that you can take, regardless of the type of disaster, that we can all take to be more resilient as businesses and as individuals. And so, so now I'm going to provide what I think some of those steps might be. But I used to say when addressing small business communities that I understand that business resiliency topics are not a sexy topic to discuss, right? Access to leads, that's a sexy topic for businesses, right? Talking about marketing and social media marketing in particular, or talking about how to get access capital. Now, those are sexy topics for businesses and really gets their attention. But when we talk about disaster preparedness, it's hard to get people to pay attention, as the CDC found. And so what we have to do is really build disaster preparedness and resilience into the way we structure our businesses and operate. But it's not just us as the business community. It's all of us as governments, as individuals, because cyber criminals are not picky. Any criminal is not picky. They're going to steal from anyone they can. And so knowing that we're all targets, we need to take steps to make ourselves and our businesses more resilient. And because greater than 90% of cyber incidents begin with email, we have to address the problem of email itself. Now, this is a dangerous tool for businesses because once an email gets through all of your sophisticated email filters and lands in that employee's inbox, It is up to that employee to click on that link or not. Are your employees equipped with the knowledge and the understanding of how to vet an email, whether to click on a link or not, or a malicious file? I always encourage the business community because cyber criminals use email so often as their primary vehicle for distributing malicious software. Why are we not training employees on email security before giving them access to email? We give them access to email on day one, and then maybe we train them on email security 6 months later or a year later to meet compliance. But they've had that whole year, those 6 months to mess things up. So if one click of an email can disrupt a business or put them completely out of business, why are we not taking email security more seriously? Why are we not training people on email before giving them access? And this is also for our personal lives. If you sign your child up or a family member up for email, why are we not teaching them about email security before giving them access or helping them access those new accounts? Now, in addition to training about email security, some of the tips that you might want to share with them. One, of course, is pause if an email requests action, right? Consider the nature, the timing, the purpose of those emails. We want to hover over these links to verify the path of that link, or to check the reply to make sure it's a legitimate email address. And of course, if you're suspicious about an email, just delete it. Don't take action, particularly if it inspires, if it elicits emotion or tries to incite fear in someone in particular. Now, for consumers, a few additional tips for consumers. Be aware, right? Understand that during moments of crisis, cyber criminals are going to be right there to take advantage of the situation. And you should be empowered in these moments to be cautious when people request sensitive information. You can always say no. Or you can always pick up the phone and verify the legitimacy of such a request. With lockdown your login, this is so important. We as citizens, global citizens, we are still awful at passwords. My gosh, the most common passwords are still password or admin 123, password 123456. I could go on. But if you have long passwords, right? Length trumps complexity. The longer the password, the better. Coupled with two-factor authentication, then you will secure your accounts from criminals. You'll go leaps and bounds in your security journey by locking down with two-factor authentication and long passwords. Your banking accounts should have two-factor authentication enabled. Yes, it adds a second layer of access to your account, but if criminals gain access to that password, chances are they won't have that secondary verification, that second factor of authentication. And so you'll be protected. Is it a silver bullet? No, because nothing is a silver bullet in protecting yourself or your organization. But it is a great step in protecting yourself. I already talked about when in doubt, throw it out, toss out those suspicious emails, and make sure with keeping a clean machine that you're updating the software on devices. If you're accessing your banking accounts, you're accessing your federal stimulus funding or your online shopping, that you're doing so with updated software in your devices and accounts. With owning your online presence, what I'd like to talk about here is just making sure that you're immediately configuring all of your privacy and security settings with your online accounts. And it's time to share with care, right? Once you configure your privacy and security settings for all of your online accounts, think about what you're sharing on those accounts, right? We willingly give out a ton of content to cyber criminals that they then use through social engineering mechanisms or tactics to use against us. And so being sure that we are being mindful of the types of information we're sharing. And that also goes for, I want to empower you, if you will, to also encourage or to teach those you love, those in your community, to help them understand that they should be mindful of what they're sharing online. Particularly now we have students who are learning online more, right? Due to the pandemic. What are they sharing in these online chat features and online platforms? We just want to be mindful of sharing with care and not sharing too much. Don't make it easier for criminals to do their job. And with Get Savvy about Wi-Fi hotspots, this is going to tie to both business and to consumers. And this is being sure that you are connecting to a secure network. There was an alert that came out a few weeks ago that were saying individuals are leaving their homes now, and the alert was from FBI. They're leaving their homes to access Wi-Fi at hotels and motels. Maybe they have stronger Wi-Fi connections, they're faster, or maybe they just are tired of being around the family. And so they're leaving the home and teleworking from hotels and motels. And the alert from FBI was really focused on helping individuals understand that they should not be connecting to publicly available Wi-Fi to transact sensitive information. And so accessing your corporate networks or to access your banking accounts. You should be using virtual private networks or VPNs, or your phone as a hotspot through its data plan, but not using public Wi-Fi. That creates vulnerabilities for you as an individual and as a business. And so helping employees understand that as well. And so use trusted networks. And so with businesses, because I know not everyone is, I broke it up in this way because I know not everyone is a business owner or leader, but also everyone's a consumer, right? But for the business community, have a crisis plan in place. You know, when Hurricane Sandy swept through, you know, the amazing team at the Delaware Small Business Development Center ramped up their activity and their action, and the U.S. Small Business Administration in Delaware responded to the crisis by supporting the Delaware small business community that was impacted. And so a lot of what we saw was that many businesses didn't have a plan in place to respond to such an impact on their business. So it's not just cyber incidents, right? It's how do you have a crisis plan in place for natural disasters, for moments of uncertainty or disruption in your business? How do we carry on? Think of this. What if we didn't have access to our network or our business's data? What would we do? Do we have a manual process that we can turn to? Do we have backups somewhere else? What is our plan for responding to moments of uncertainty? What if we don't have access to our physical office anymore or for a specific period of time? How can we ramp up operations digitally? And so thinking about moments of crisis and how do we have a plan in place? Who are those trusted partners we can turn to? And with creating a technology toolkit for our employees, we saw with the pandemic and the massive transition to telework that that employees were getting very creative in how they were getting their work done because they wanted to do their job, right? And so businesses were scrambling, employees were scrambling, they were getting creative and using solutions that might not be necessarily secure or trusted. And so for businesses, it's always good to have a technology toolkit that you can suggest employees use or mandate employees use when they're teleworking not on your network. Maybe it's a specific password manager. And I saw a question come through, and I do encourage organizations and individuals to use password managers. It's a great way to help organize the complexity that comes with managing many different passwords. Maybe it's a specific VPN. Maybe it's a specific type of meeting platform. And then how, when you use those platforms and those technologies, how do you use them securely? Maybe you have a session where you teach them how to use the virtual private network. How does it benefit them? Maybe you teach the employees how to use and lock down online meeting accounts. And so not only do you give them the technologies to use, the vetted technologies to use, but then you help them understand how to use them securely. And that might mean you need to rely upon your internal IT or information security team or your trusted vendor to help you and your business create some of these toolkits and guidance for your employees. With plan for an increase in cyber threats, again, as I outlined earlier, anytime there is a crisis of any scale, of any type, there's always going to be an increase in targeted cyber attacks, particularly themed with that crisis. And so how are we educating ourselves and our employees on how to remain vigilant and how to report these cyber threats? Again, either to our vendor or to our security teams themselves. I also want to encourage businesses to take a moment to evaluate your insurance coverage. Now, particularly with cyber, because that's what I'm talking about today, you need to understand if you're covered in the instance of a cyber incident or breach, or if you have cybersecurity insurance, what is covered and what is not covered. But you want to just check your insurance coverage and know what is and what is not covered. And I'm not an insurance agent, and maybe there are some insurance experts that will be joining you in this conference today. And I encourage you to reach out to them and talk to them about insurance, cybersecurity insurance, and how you can get your business covered. This is one of the major threats to organizations today, and will continue to be a major threat to organizations. And so that should be built into your business plan and your resiliency package. Now, with adjusting your security priorities, I know that in moments of crisis, you're focused on the crisis, right? You want to make sure your employees and your families are safe during a hurricane or during a flood or during a pandemic, whatever the crisis. And so it's fair to readjust the security priorities that you had planned out for the year, just as you readjust all of your other priorities. But what I don't encourage you to do is to eliminate your cybersecurity priorities during a moment of crisis, because cyber criminals are going to be taking advantage of you, mostly through digital means during that crisis. You have to pivot how you secure your organization. Maybe it's using short modules to educate your employees on how criminals are taking advantage of the specific crisis. Maybe it's focusing your attention on helping employees connect to your network securely. Maybe it's helping them create a secure home work environment. And so adjust your security priorities to the moment, but do not eliminate them in a moment of crisis. And that occurs through continuing to reinforce secure behaviors. Because employees are teleworking, they might feel isolated or removed from the organization or from the information technology staff. Don't let them feel isolated. Continue to communicate with them and reinforce secure behaviors. Because if you don't continue to communicate with your employees, cyber criminals will take advantage of that lack of communication and communicate with your employees. And also, I always like to, turn your employees into sensors, right? Help teach them how to identify potentially malicious emails, and then create a mechanism for reporting incidents or malicious emails. Help them help you by giving them an opportunity and a mechanism for reporting when something is suspicious. And I know at my time at the University of Delaware, they had a great program for reporting incidents. And so, and reward that behavior in any way that you can through positive reinforcement. And have empathy, right? During moments of crisis, not only are your staff overwhelmed, but particularly right now during the mass transition to telework, our information security teams are overwhelmed. Our IT teams are overwhelmed, whether they're internal or external. Have empathy with them. Know they're overwhelmed with help desk tickets and requests as people try to figure out how to work remotely. Have empathy for your employees, knowing that their families are, they're scared for their families and their loved ones. And so know that they're not cybersecurity experts and that they're dealing with an emotional time with any type of crisis. And so just approach any of your communications and your interventions, particularly as you with your cybersecurity, with empathy in mind. And of course, as you get through any type of crisis, be sure that you are documenting your lessons learned so that you can come out of this a stronger business and learn from any mistakes that you may have made and implement improvements to your processes and procedures or enhancements to your technologies, whatever they are. And so always come out of any type of crisis with documenting your lessons learned to build up the resilience of your organization. Now, if I put on my Miss Cleo hat and I look to the future, what do I see? Well, one, I'm going to see that, this telework scenario or situation probably isn't going away, right? Many organizations are saying, you know what, we're going to make this permanent. This is a pretty good thing. We don't have to pay for office space or as much of it, or employees are more productive teleworking. So then how do we as organizations continue to refine and adapt our teleworking processes and procedures to adapt to this new paradigm? Looking forward, of course, we're now upon the holiday season. And so people are going to ramp up. We're already shopping online more, but it's going to be multiplied in the multi-100% at this point, probably, during the next few months as people shop for presents for their loved ones for all the various holidays. So with that is going to come an increased targeting of cyber criminals, not just on consumers, but also on small, medium, and large merchants. And so how are we as consumers being sure that we're shopping online securely? And one quick tip is, of course, make sure that you're not using your debit card to make purchases online. You're using your credit card because they come with more consumer protections. And for businesses, making sure that you are locking down your e-commerce infrastructure so that you reduce your vulnerability and the chances of cyber criminals taking advantage of your e-commerce in mobile payment platforms. One of the biggest steps you can take, of course, with that is two-factor authentication on your e-commerce platforms and making sure that your software is updated. So many businesses are running outdated versions of their e-commerce platforms. And so, or their e-commerce software. And so 2 quick tips for you there. But as we move into the holiday season, cyber criminals are going to be taking advantage of this opportunity and targeting merchants and consumers. They're also, as we're seeing now, taking advantage of the confusion with the election and targeting individuals, saying, click this link to access your ballot or XYZ. And so making that we're remaining hyper vigilant during during all of these moments of crisis. And I'm classifying all of shopping and the election as a moment of crisis as well. So, I come back to this, the ability to recover from and adjust easily to misfortune or change. And again, it comes down to, how have we prepared for and responded to these moments of uncertainty, both as individuals and as businesses? Do we have trusted people in our corner we can turn to? Do we have a plan, backup plan, if we lose access to our networks? Are we educating ourselves and our employees on how to work remotely securely, or giving them the tools they need to do their jobs? And so this ability to recover from and adjust easily to misfortune or change, this resiliency should be baked in to your business planning and your business strategy. Year after year, it should be revised because it changes. Now, I do want to highlight a few resources because I mentioned a lot about you should do this, you should do this, you should do this. But there are some resources to help you do all of that. So Cybersecurity Awareness Month, of course, that monthly awareness campaign, we have a lot of resources that we're issuing throughout the month, and all of our business partners, toolkits and guidance and best practices. We've also put together a COVID-19 security resource library. In February and early March, we noticed that a lot of great resources were being created on how to telework securely from our federal partners and board member companies from NCSA, how to avoid and identify scams related to COVID-19. And so we have this resource library that's broken up into identifying scams and teleworking best practices, to give you kind of a one-stop shop for resources that are all free and available to the public. We also have a really great security awareness series in collaboration with Adobe and Speechless. And these videos are about less than 2 minutes long, and they're a great resource for, again, that security reinforcement education that you might do with your employees to educate them. And they're entertaining and lighthearted and quickly get to the point with some tips that educate your employees. And you can take these resources and use a lunch and learn, or you can build it into an online training for your employees, or put it on your online intranet, whatever you want to do with them. They're yours to use. The federal government also has some really great resources that I just wanted to highlight. The Federal Trade Commission has issued a lot of resources on coronavirus scams and how to avoid them. And so this is the link, and you'll have access to all of these slides as well. CISA and Homeland Security have issued their coronavirus guidance as well. And a lot of attention that they're placing, of course, is on critical infrastructure for those who are in healthcare and banking. But it's guidance for everyone, or it's guidance that everyone can use. I also, we think a lot about NIST as far as the NIST cybersecurity framework, but we forget about all the amazing work that they do outside of that framework. And recently they've put together some guidance on telework security basics. They have some videos and they have some best practices that they've put together. And NIST is the National Institute of Standards and Technology, and they're part of the Department of Commerce, and they are a group of subject matter experts, senior researchers who are focused on coming up with standards and best practices for cybersecurity professionals and business leaders to improve not only the manufacturing of technologies, but also how we use them and deploy them across our enterprises. And so I encourage you to check all of these out. And they're not jargon laden. They are written so that non-technical audiences can understand them and use them. And so, I'm coming to the end of my time. And so we're never going to eliminate risks to our organizations or our personal lives. We're always going to face risk. But we as individuals, individual contributors within an organization, individuals within a always connected global society, we all have a role to play in minimizing our risks. And I'm hoping that what I covered today and what you'll learn throughout the day, that you will be empowered to take this information and not only apply it to your business, if you are a business owner or operator, but you apply it to your personal life and you share this information with others. Sharing is caring. If I end on no other note, I want to end on sharing is caring. Become a cybersecurity evangelist to help others you care about within your community, within your sphere of influence. Help them lock down their accounts, secure their privacy and their information. And all it could be is turning to the person next to you and helping them add a password to their mobile device, or helping them enable two-factor authentication on their banking account. And so with that, this is my contact information. I've come to the end of my time. We have a little time for Q&A, but I encourage you to reach out. It has been an honor getting the opportunity to share this information with you over the last hour. And I hope you all enjoy the rest of the conference sessions. There are a lot of great talks and a lot of great people who are sharing information in this conference. And it's been an honor. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Daniel. This was such a treat to get to hear from you and to get this amazing topic. It's so important to think of business continuity and sustainability in this climate. When you think of the state of Delaware, we probably had maybe 10% or at most 20% of our positions designed for remote work. And we had to evolve very quickly to be able to support 15,000 people working remotely. And what's key to us enabling that to be successful is our business continuity program. The fact that our employees and our agencies create these packages of where do I go, what do I need, and how do I continue to provide key services to the constituents of Delaware. And recently we started to integrate remote access into that module, because we felt that it might not always be possible to go to the remote location. It might not always possible to get there and have the equipment you need. So it was important for us to be able to work remotely and from anywhere in the world. And that was our opportunity. So I strongly encourage everybody that whether it's a zombie apocalypse or what it is, be ready for your business to be able to sustain from anywhere at any time and provide your customers the critical services that I know you offer. Now, I want you guys to look to your chat very quickly. I just posted the link there. This is our vendor booth. And I know it takes you away from the program a little bit, but it's very important that you take the chance to check out our vendors. One of the vendors, we have vendors from Cisco. As you know, Cisco runs the world. Most of the core internet connectivities around the world are leveraging significant Cisco equipment. CNT Infotech, critical professional services across the state and really across the East Coast. So if you need IT services, you know you can go to this organization, and it will provide you those critical services. CrowdStrike. If you haven't heard, when the leading political parties were impacted by cybercrime, they turned to CrowdStrike, a critical solution in the state's portfolio, and one that you should know because they look at breach prevention as a critical component. We have our cybersecurity initiative with the University of Delaware, a strong partnership, not only from a training perspective, but for a knowledge acquisition perspective. Our small business development center, critical capabilities there. You definitely want to take a look at that. Info Solutions, our IT services companies that even the state considers as a critical asset. My Sherpa business technology guides that provide extensive amounts of information for you. MTM Technologies, both state and our partner organizations rely on them. Potter Anderson, if you need legal help, that even have a cybersecurity component, don't hesitate to check out that booth. TSEI staff and services keep the state running. One Identity is your core capability to protect your environment. If you haven't heard, identity is the new perimeter. ServiceNow, our service generation service that provides the ability for you to support your internal customers. Now it has built-in things like chat boxes and chats, and you should definitely get to know them. SecureNet MD, your healthcare services are covered. Versalign, a strong partner for the state for years now. And Wilmington University, one of the few universities that reach out to you, bring the education to you. You don't have to come to them. And they've been doing this for years, even before the pandemic. So I want you to take the chance, go to the vendor booths, check out each one of our vendors, and there are incredible prices. Everything from $100 Visa card to AirPods. I think I'm gonna go for the AirPods. I want one of them. So please check out our booths at 10:10. Please check your timer. You can go to our breakout rooms. And I will also attach the link to our breakout rooms for you, so you can definitely get to check out our first sessions. So the breakout rooms will cover future-proofing cloud security. Don't get caught in the fishnet. Scammers love COVID-19. Yes, we know. We see them every day. And securing very small businesses. So that's the breakout session 1, and that is our 10:10. And if you go back to the Delaware Cyber workshop, the links are right there. So I hope to see all of the breakout sessions. Yes.
We have just a couple questions that we need to cover before we adjourn.
Yes.
So, and I guess this one is for Dan. I don't know that you covered it completely. You talked about it a little bit. For password managers, how do you recommend implementation? Like, are you thinking an institutional platform that you have access to while you're at work, or guidance toward a personal solution?
Yeah, well, I mean, that depends on the business and the size of the business and your infrastructure. I think you can take many different approaches, but for organizations, it's always best, as I had talked about with that toolkit, right, to have a vetted service that you want all employees to use. What you don't want to do is put the responsibility on the employees to go out and choose, particularly if they're not cybersecurity experts or technology experts. You want to, or with your trusted IT or information security vendor, to vet a particular service and implement that service and encourage that service for employees to use. So again, you don't want to have employees going out and being creative because many times they'll purchase the cheapest solution, or they'll find a free solution at that. And so making sure that you have a recommendation for what service they use, what if they're paying for it themselves, or if the organization is paying for it, that you're deploying one vetted solution.
Thank you. And Solomon, this one might be for you, and I think it probably depends. Where can someone report a cyber attack, phishing, etc. in Delaware?
That is a very, very good question. What we'll do is let me find the exact statewide address, and we will post it to the chat in the conference. So please join us back, and we'll get you the exact link. We recommend Did You Know as a means of getting the information to state government cybersecurity core team. If you go to Did You Know, we have a contact center. You can send us a message. We respond very quickly, and we provide some guidance to you. But overall, I'll get the perspective from our DIAC and our state police cybercrime on how they will want it to consume this data. So look forward to more information very soon.
And I'll add to that, and it's not Delaware specific. If you experience a scam, you can report a scam to the Federal Trade Commission. If you are victim of cybercrime, you can report cybercrimes to the FBI's Internet Crimes Complaint Center. And what those are just repositories of information that as more and more people submit some of these attacks and these scams, then the federal government's able to collect this data and then respond and issue guidance. And so it helps them in helping others remain vigilant and protected. And so that's on the federal side, but I'll let Solomon and your team speak to the Delaware side.
Yes, so definitely our Did You Know website. We have a way for you to contact us right on the website, and we will provide something that would cover more of the cybercrime when we come back. So take the time to check out a vendor booth, get some of those amazing prices, and then come back to the main page for our breakout session at 10:10. We hope to see you there.